Hello everybody, this is Manuel at manuelmartelphotography.com, and today in this tutorial I would like to show you how to create this image. We will be working with only 3 JPEG photos. This is not a proper time-lapse. This is an image that was processed in Photoshop, and I will show you step by step how to do it. So this image was taken in the Olympic National Park in the Washington State, in the United States. And the Milky Way wasn't aligned properly. I wasn't too sure what I was going for there. I was just shooting stars and on the lake on a nice evening. And I came home and created this effect that looked like a time lapse. So I will show you how to create that in a moment. So with this tutorial will come a PSD file called Night.psd. So this will be everything that we're going to do. I will record the PSD file. Basically, I will save it and you guys can go back step by step, and it will be something like this. You will find all the layers, all the masks, and so forth. And then we will be working with 3 JPEG images. So if you go into the Lake Night folder that came with the tutorial, you will find the PSD, the 1 base layer, the 2nd image, and the 3rd image. So what you can do is just upload these 3 photos to Photoshop and make sure to put them in these orders. So the 1st base layer at the bottom, the 2nd in the middle, and the 3rd on top. So once you've done that, we will go ahead and start working on the images. Part 1. Let's create our base image. First come first, let's take a look at our 3 JPEG images. So I will deselect the 3rd and the 2nd layer, and let's take a look at our base layer. There's a few things I like and a few things I don't like about this image. First thing, I like the silhouette and the shadows, the sky, the reflection of the sky on the lake. I like the tree. There's actually some light. A car was passing by and created a little bit of a light painting effect. And things I don't really like about this image, there's a lot of traffic, so a lot of glow on the water from the car passing by, and I was fortunate to shoot a shooting star, but it created a very distracting white line in the sky. Second image, there's no light on the tree, so it's totally dark, less glow from the cars on the lake. This is a shorter exposure than the first layer, so it's a little darker. And the 3rd image is very similar to the 2nd one, just a little lighter. So now what we're going to do is we're going to blend these 3 together. And the way to do this is I'm going to choose my 3rd layer, change the blending mode here to lighten. I will repeat that with the 2nd layer. And now, if we take a look, our sky is back, the tree is back, the bad glow is back, and then the stars kind of like melted together and start to create a bit of a time-lapse blurring movement in the sky. So if I had tons of JPEG picture to work with, I could create a cool time-lapse from the stars, but I don't. I only have 3 images, so this is why we're gonna work with a blurring filter in a second. But before we do that, we're gonna take these 3 layers here and we will create a master copy of this. So we're gonna press Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E. And then this layer I will rename Sky, because this will become my sky layer only. So what we're going to do before we do anything here is this white line in the sky. So we'll go choose my spot healing tool. I will zoom in, and I will get rid of this line. Now don't worry if it's not perfect, because we will apply a blur in a second here. Next thing, if you want to, you can right click and convert this layer to a smart object. The reason why I'm doing that now and not before the spot healing tool is you cannot use the spot healing on a smart object. It will revert it, and therefore you will lose your smart object. So do whatever you gotta do your smart object then, just before you go and apply your filters. So the reason why we're using a smart object is you can go back and click on your layer and go back straight to your filter and make a lot of adjustment effects to the effect you're applying to your image very easily. So I will let my computer render. Oh, here it is. Now you can tell it's a smart object because that little icon is there. So we're going to go to Filter, Blur, and we're going to do the radial blur. So yours probably come this way. So the blur center here, you can drag that to go straight to the edge. So the top left corner of your image. Make sure your blur method is spin. You can choose a draft quality if you will, or you can go best. And the amount, let's do 5. Press OK. Now my computer will render this, and we will be back in a moment. Okay, this is what the image looked like now. I think I really like the blur amount at 5. I'm not too sure if I like the position of the center here. So what we're going to do here is you can go back. Because it is a smart object, you can just re-click on the radial blur. And then I'm going to choose, my middle was right there, right? So I'm going to go and push it even a little further up in the sky, press OK. And then I will let that process again. I like this way better. Now the corner, left corner for a picture is kind of the center of this rotation. It looks great. Now a few things we're going to work against here is the mountain is blurred as well as the clouds as well as the tree. So we will need to do a mask and just get rid of the blurriness on the edges. But before we do that, we will come here, make sure we select that layer, and we will come to Layer, Raster Smart Object, and Rasterize to make sure it is no longer a smart object. And this will be way quicker to deal with in the future. Because we're happy with our blur, then we don't have to keep it as a smart object anymore. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the Move tool, or we can press V, and we will make this picture a little bigger. So the reason why I'm doing this is if I take the opacity down to, let's say 50% or so, if I zoom in, what I'm trying to do here is make sure that the outline of the mountain, let's say on these 3 layers at the bottom there, it's actually below all that blurriness. So it looks good like this, and I'll explain a little bit here. I'm going to arrange my sky maybe just like that, and I'll bring the opacity. Oh, I need to press OK here in the top part. It will transform, and I will bring my opacity back to 100%. On this layer, I will create a layer mask. I will choose my brush. I will choose maybe a 50% hardness, and I will go zoom in just a notch. And I will come here and just quickly paint over the sky, over the clouds bit, and the tree. So I did a very quick job here, and I will fix that in a moment. So I just make sure that everything is gone in the bottom part of the image. And I will zoom in, and I will take a smaller brush, maybe with a 70% hardness, and with a white foreground, I will come and make it as close as I can from the edges of the mountain and the cloud as I can. Now you'll see the cloud, maybe I'll bring a little bit more softer brush to work with that so it doesn't look too crisp edges. So as you can see, there's still some stars there, and we'll have to work with it in a moment. Whenever we're done, we're just gonna go and we will use our brush healing tool. And as you can see here, I'm changing the hardness of my brush quite a bit to suit my need around this tree. There's no magic number or nothing that really is super efficient versus something else. You're just gonna find whatever worked for you. I was doing a very quick job, but this is it. We created our sky. Now this is what our star trail look like. So what we need to do here is to create a reflection on the lake. So the way to do this is I will choose the top layer here, the sky layer, press Command J, and we'll duplicate, and we're gonna rename this the sky reflection. And then I will go to edit, not image, but edit, transform, flip vertical. So now this is what I have. It looks kind of weird, but we're gonna go to my moving tool, and again I'll be doing a bit of movement around. Okay, we're gonna go back to edit, and we're gonna go to transform, and then perspective. And then really what that does is that we'll add some perspective to our image. So what you want to do is kind of like play with it until you find like a good kind of reflection angle to that image that look natural to the lake. So really it's a matter just to mess around with it and see what really works. So you kind of drag it like this, and then we're going to bring our opacity down to just a little bit, maybe 30%, and then we're going to make it so it looks good. So I will make it smaller so we see a little bit more stars. You know, something maybe just like that. Then I'm happy with this. I can press OK. Now we already have our layer masks, so what we're going to do here is we'll need to just go around, use our brush, click on the layer mask, and then we're going to zoom in, and then we're going to apply our mask to this image as well, using a black foreground. And then what I like to do is just basically get rid of it where we shouldn't be able to see it like too much. So maybe I'll get rid all the way to the clouds right now, and then I'll change the opacity to maybe 20% or so, and then make it super soft brush. And then I'm just gonna make it big too. I'm just gonna click nearby just to add a little bit more star kind of show. Oh, I'm doing backwards. My bad. Should have got like my white brush, and then basically is you wouldn't be seeing this necessarily the star too much with the clouds and stuff like that. So that's why I'm trying to mix it up to a level which looks good. Which in this case, I'm happy with this. It looks good. So this is our base layer. So what we can do here is we can just regroup everything here. I click on the first one, shift, click the last one, Command J to group. I'm going to rename that my base image. Part number 2, cleaning the image and final touches. Now that we created our base image, let's look at it closely and decide what we need to work on. So if I look quickly, the glow of the cars here really is very bright, so we need to work on this, as well as the stars which is coming through here, which doesn't look to be part of this time-lapse feel. The tree at the bottom is a little bright, and that's maybe like the light is distracting from that little house here, and maybe a few lights on the lake as well. So a little bit of cleaning up, and we're gonna apply some color and some curves and so forth as final touches. So let's start by choosing a base image to work with the lights on the lake. If I remember correctly, image number 2 was very good. So if I go and turn all these off for now and change this to normal, you can tell here it's not too bad. It's not too much glow, and there's cars all over. So I can make maybe a good blurring effect with the cars. So I will duplicate this copy, Command J, and I will name that car trail. The next thing we'll do is bring this all the way up to the top. So I'm going to drag it all the way to the top, and I will make sure that my second layer is back to lighten, and put these all back there. And my color trail layer is now on top, as you can see. So what I'll do here is I'll create a motion blur. So I'm going to go to Filter, Blur, Motion Blur, and then we'll take an angle of 0, and the distance, I'll try to make it as nice as I can. And what I'm looking at is the car trail here. And maybe we'll try 100 pixels here. It looks very good. I'm going to press OK. And then all I need to do with this is I'm going to create a mask and I'm going to invert it, Command I. So all I want to do here is I'm going to zoom in, use a white brush, small, and I'm going to make it maybe 50% hardness. I'm going to bring back that opacity to 100%. And then what I want to do here is going over these cars there. So I'm going to go over the mountains as well. It's going to be a little darker. It's okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to soften the brush a lot to maybe 15, opacity to maybe 50%. And then we're going to change the opacity to make it white. So we're going to just blend this a little better there. And it looks a little funny on the legs, so we're going to just blend this like that. So it's not blurry all the place, so I did that backwards. I'm very sorry about this. So we're going to use a black foreground. My bad. And then what we're going to do here is perhaps just make it smaller and then blur the lake there, because it doesn't really matter if it's blur or not. Just a little bit, just like that. So it looks very good like this. If you think you get a little blur in the sky, just rearrange it. So now we look at this. It looks way better. That's the before and the after. Way better. But I kind of messed this up a little bit. So we're going to go back to 100%. Black foreground. I'm going to make sure there's no spill anymore in the sky there, because there was a little bit. Okay. So that took care of the glow, and now we have a nice trail for the cars. So next thing we gotta do is work on all these little stars in the sky over there. Another way you can do this is create a master copy. So once we get this, we're gonna call that cleanup. Okay, and this brush healing tool, we're gonna zoom in, and then we're gonna clean all the stuff we don't like. So for example, this, and so forth. Okay, so take your time. I was doing that very quick, but the stars on are clean. What I would like to work on is now clean the lake a little bit. So what we're going to do is, like, again, we're going to work on these lights that I don't really like. So we're going to zoom in and I'm going to repeat the process. Here it is. Our image is way cleaner. So that's the before, after. So as we can tell now, it's a little bit more natural. It's a little bit more clean. So that's pretty much cleaning the image. Now what we're going to do is apply a few tweak to the image to make it a little better, to make it pop a little bit more. First, we're just going to clean this little tree there. So we're going to go to brightness and contrast, and we're going to bring the contrast down, the brightness down, maybe about like this. And we're going to invert this mask again by Command I. Just use the brush, and then we're just going to come in with a white foreground and just make this a little darker. Before and after. If we think that's not enough, we can always darken it a little bit more, just like that. Then we're going to come back to our mask, brush, and then change it to black foreground, and just make sure like this. And if you want to, go to the opacity about maybe 30-40%. Very soft brush, not too big. And then we're just going to darken this part of the image as well with a white foreground. Okay, if I do think there's other areas that I'm not too happy with, that they're too light, I'm just going to keep doing that until I find that I'm happy with the actual darkness all around. So that looks good like that. And next thing we're going to do is add a little contrast. So let's just choose a curves. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to darken, make a little bit of a S. So we're going to apply that mainly to the sky and places that I like. Looks good like that. So if I think it's good all over the picture, if not, I'll change it. See, it's a little bit more contrast now. It hit the mountain a little bit, so we're going to go choose our mask, our brush, black foreground. I'll leave the opacity to maybe 50%, and I'll come around, very soft brush again, and then just get rid of this contrasty look on the mountain to give them a little bit of definition so it's not too dark. Okay, so here it is. I'm happy with that. Maybe so a little dark in the tree as well, so I'll go and just lighten the tree just a notch, just like that. Before, after. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is create a little vignette. So I'm going to go here and choose the elliptical marquee tool, and I'm going to make it as wide as I can, just like that. And I will just click, once I've done that, put it back in the center. I will right click, feather, the radius, let's go, let's say 250 pixels. I'm going to press OK. And let's do that a second time to make it very feather, very nice. So now that we've done that, the way I do mine, there's different ways, but I choose the levels. And you need to invert it. So we're going to command I. And then basically what you do is you take your middle slider and then you go and mess around with it till you find something that you really like. Or you can take the bottom bar as well and do the same thing. So I really like the look of this. So if you take a look, say darken your image pretty good. And then if you don't want your tree to be affected too much about it, you can always use your mask, go back to your brush, and then again, opacity, if you want to, you can go a little lower, maybe like 30% or so. And then with your black foreground, just go around and then take a bit of that vignette away from the tree so it doesn't affect it too much. If you think that you like these clouds to be a little cleaner as well, a little clearer, do the same. It's very up to your preferences at this point. So the vignette, before and after. Now that we are happy with that, what we can do is regroup all these layers together. Command J. And it's going to be our clean and touch image. And if you guys want to, what you can do at the end is do a master copy. Do your final image. I like to do that sometimes. And then here it is. This will be our final image. So this is what it's looking like. If you want to, you can look at everything we've done here. If we look at the before and after, if I take everything away here, all we have is this. Oops, my bad. I didn't mean to take this out. So we have was this layer, which was one of the three that we worked, and we ended up with this image instead. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this tutorial and you can apply these techniques to different images. So just remember, with Photoshop now these days, there's a lot of effect you can actually do, and a proper way to create this image probably would have been taking a bunch of JPEG images together and then use maybe a software, third-party software that do a nice sky trail, and that would have been it. But because there's cloud in the image, because we only have 3 images, it was actually very easy to make this look like a time lapse just by using a blur technique. All right, so feel free to email me if you have any questions, something doesn't work for you. Please send me a note and I will reply as quick as I can. And there will be more tutorials coming out. So thank you for watching and have a good day.